Okay. Here we go. No, I'm not sad. You guys misunderstand. Understand. Do I look sad? I just want you guys to know the truth. That these people that you think might be really trying to give you great content and take care of your needs as actually are interested in their own stuff. And they're not really trying to get the best content. So anyway, let's get going. We're going to read about Soma. So remember, don't be sad. So Soma, it says not visible on Facebook. Are we okay on Facebook? Sorry, I'm like adjusting everything. Hey, my dad's watching. So we must be visible on Facebook. All right, so remember the story. Indra took over from Varuna, right? And too much light on my face. I can't do anything about that. Indra took over from Varuna and then had a bit of a problem, like wasn't able to fill Varuna's shoes. Varuna being the king of heaven, king of paradise. So he needed help. And various people helped him in various ways. And so far we've learned about a couple of the ways that he got help. First of all, we learned that a god named Yama took over the judicial branch of the universal government. Right? Yama took over the task of figuring out who's right or wrong and who gets rewarded and who gets punished. And Yama got help from Vishnu so that he could be able to see everything fairly from all angles. Right? Remember that story that was about Bharani and how serious and heavy Bharani is. Then Indra got help. We also talked about how Indra got rid of the Nagas, so we talked a little bit about Nagas. And Ashlesha, Nakshatra, we learned about that and how sultry that is. Then, who else helped Indra? Brahma. This was last week. We heard about it. Indra needed more decisiveness to be able to really act as a king. So Brahma and Agni gave Indra the Indragni to give him more decisiveness. That's what we learned about last time. Now today we're going to learn how Indra needs more power in general. And the moon is going to give him that power, or Soma. Soma is going to give him that power. So let's find out about what Soma is, what this power is, etc. And Soma is the god of Mrigashirsha, which is interesting because Mrigashirsha is not a powerful nakshatra. Mrigashirsha is, in the way that we think of the word powerful, Mrigashirsha is a timid nakshatra. It's known for its timidity. But let's see what Soma actually does, and we might learn something interesting about Mrigashirsha in the process. So if I pull out the book, this is the second part of my new book. The new book is Nakshatra, the Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology, which you can get Amazon or anything like that. You can. The second half is where I'm telling a narrative story about the gods of the nakshatras. The first half is the translation of Taittiriya Brahmana's Nakshatra Sutra and other parts of Taittiriya Brahmana. So in the second half, that's what we've been doing the last few weeks. So we're up to this section called Indra's Miracle Drug, Mrigashirsha and Soma. So I'll read a little bit and then we'll talk about it. It says, at least as important as the gift of supreme fire, which was the Indragni, is the gift of supreme water. And that's actually the sutra for Vishaka, which is where the fire is, Indra's fire. The supreme fire is in Vishaka, and the sutra for that is that it requires the combination of fire and water, Indra Agni. Indra being rain and Agni being sun, to make seeds to have a harvest. That's how the sutra for Vishaka goes. So Indra himself needed both the power of fire and the power of water. So today we're going to hear about this, about the water element. Last time we heard about the fire. So supreme water, we call it amrita, which is Indra's miracle drug, given to him by the moon god Soma. So does anybody know what the word amrita literally means? Oh, Catherine, thank you so much. Anybody know what amrita actually means? Mritu means? No, it doesn't literally mean nectar. What does it literally mean? Like etymologically, what does this word mean? Deathless. Ancient healing divination. You got it right. Youth, Lauren got it right. No death. Yuyi. So that's because mrita means death. Mrt is death. In English or Latin language, we say mort. Mortified. Mortal. So mrit. Mrit is death. Amrit, no death. Anti-death. So amrit means life. Life-giving, life force, deathlessness. So basically speaking, anything that gives you life is amrit. So every time you sit down and eat, you're getting some amrita. Anytime you drink, eat, nourish yourself, you're putting in stuff that's going to keep you alive. And that thing of keeping you alive, that's called amrita. So Indra's got this special version of it. A special version of food. Basically, all of us, from ants up to Brahma, we all have some kind of food. From bacteria, they all are digesting things. Everything is digesting some kind of amrit so that it can keep itself manifest. Keep from falling apart and becoming mrit. It's eating amrit so that it doesn't become mrit, dead. But not all of us have the same quality of food. The quality of food that's enjoyed in heaven is different than the quality of food that humans enjoy, which is different from the quality of food that cows and horses enjoy, and tigers, etc. But all of it is amrit, and all of it is basically Soma. So now, let's talk about the word. Let's talk about Soma now. Soma. What's the relationship between Soma and amrit? Soma is the one who gives amrit. Soma is the moon god, and Soma gives Indra amrit. Soma produces amrit. Amrita. So basically what Soma means, as we actually went over this in the Nakshatra Sutra class that I just finished literally 2 minutes before starting this one. Just finished that session. Today our session was Mula and the 2 Ashadas. But recently, actually the first session that we did was on Mrigashirsha, Kritika, Rohini, and Mrigashirsha, and one of the students was like, I don't understand what the god of Mrigashirsha has to do with this sutra. Because the sutra of Mrigashirsha is Vitatani, Parastat, Vayanta Avastat. That Mrigashirsha wants to diffuse and then recombine. Diffuse and recombine. So what does Soma have to do with that? And the student was trying to think of some way that actually Soma is a drug. Soma is a miracle drug. So maybe it's like how the drugs or the vitamins have to like spread throughout your body so that they can build tissues. That's cool. But actually it's very, very literal how Soma, so if you understand that Soma is not a drug, Soma is the basis of which produces food. That's what Soma is. It's the basic template of all food. And literally that's water. The word Soma means watery, liquid. Literally speaking, the word Soma means soft, gentle fluid, liquidic. And so the basic form of Soma is water, and water is the basic producer of all food. Of course, you need sunlight too, but basically water is the source of life. So water is the source of amrit. Soma is the one that produces amrita. And the water, Soma, is also intimately connected with the moon. That also boggles people's mind. But let's see. I think I'm going to talk about this. So I'll read again from the book. Water is the element that enables food to have flavor and vitality. And that's why mouths are wet. Mouths are wet so that you can vitatani, dissolve the thing. See, water is a solvent, so water does vitatani, dissolving, and then vayanta, recombining. Once this thing is dissolved, it can recombine in a different way. So that's what Mrigashirsha is all about. Mrigashirsha is water. Water's nakshatra, Soma's nakshatra, and therefore it likes to dissolve and then recombine. Dissolve and then bring the things together and recombine them in a different way. So water is the element that enables food to have flavor and vitality. Water is all over our tongues. And the tongue is the thing we use to taste. And food that is dry has less flavor than food that is wet. Water is like the activator of the flavor content in the food. And at least the way the Vedic mind thinks about food and flavor is that the flavor is synonymous with the potency of the food. The flavor is the way that you perceive the nutritional content of the food. Dry, tasteless food isn't nutritive. Regardless of whether these days you can make a pill that supposedly has your vitamin C in it. Maybe that works. There's some way to monkey it or, force the system. But in the natural system, the way that the nutrients and so forth are experienced by your senses is as flavor. So water has flavor. Water in the form of blood is another important thing about Soma. Lori, it's nice to see somebody from the shores of Eastern Long Island, my hometown. Soma is also about blood. And blood is so important also for carrying nutrition around. And it does vitatani and then vayanta. It dissolves the food, carries it to the different cells, and vayanta combines the food with the cells. So Soma is like the water that's producing the food. Soma is all the liquids. So Soma is the plasma and the blood that's moving the food and nutrition around. Water has a intimate, symbolic, physical relation to the moon. Symbolically, both water and the moon are the same. Like what water symbolizes in astrology is the same as what the moon symbolizes. They both symbolize nurturing, mothering, femininity, emotions, introspection, quietude, stuff like that, right? That's all water, that's all moon. So water and moon are basically synonymous. So symbolically speaking, you could see why the Soma is the moon god. The god called water is the god of the moon, because the moon and the water are one. Physically, you get the moon, like I write here, physically the position of the moon causes the oceans to ebb and flow with tides. Right? So physically, there's a lot of effect from the moon on water by gravity. There's another deep connection between moon and water. So it's natural that the moon god called Chandra has immense control over water, and therefore immense control over the flavor and vitality we can obtain from food. This is one thing that kind of blows people's minds about the Vedic idea for agriculture, is that the moon is super important for agriculture. Modern agriculture tends to think the sun is very important. But the moon is the thing that's going to affect the water And the water is the thing that's going to provide the nutrition and flavor in the food. So I don't know. I think the science is lost of the Vedic agriculture and how you actually do it. These days, most translators seem to have kind of like a somewhat superstitious sounding idea that it's moonlight that's important for growing the food. But who knows what it really is, if it's that, or it may just be the day that the seeds are planted has to be with an auspicious moon or a bright moon, etc. But the moon has got a lot of effect on whether or not this food is going to be tasty or not, and then therefore have nutrition. All right, so any questions so far about anything brought up so far? Sonia says, amrita, water, so the timidness of Mrigashirsha, it gives strength physically. All right, so she's bringing up an interesting point. Like, the way Mrigashirsha Nakshatra works is it actually does produce strength, because when you do Vayanta means braiding or weaving or combining. So when you combine things, they become more strong. Like just a piece of a cotton thread is not very strong. But if you can combine 100 cotton threads, you get a cloth that's quite strong. So that's what Mrigashirsha does. It diffuses out and it picks up all these different things as it's diffused, and then it pulls them all together and creates this strength. So that's what Soma is good at. It's good. It diffuses itself. It's watery, but it's creating all the strength that's in the nutrition in the food. So Mrigashirsha gives strength, but not like an individualized kingly type of strength, but like a strength of a group. That's the type of Mrigashirsha strength that you get. Question is whether Chandra and Soma are the same. It's a good question, and I can't decidedly answer that. But I can't definitely give you a confident answer that they're definitely the same or definitely not the same. Babuchka wants to know, what does samrita mean? I don't know what samrita. But if you have samrita, then that means with amrita. Or it could be samrita. You have to try to write it out with diacritics or in Devanagari. So if it's samrita, it might mean with truth. It's different ways that things could mean different words. Who was the first to discover the power of Soma? I don't know that there was a first. This is the thing. Remember, if you follow along the Vedic wisdom series that I do on Tuesdays, it's my Tuesday, so I think it's your Mondays. There is no beginning to things. There's no first to things. Things are like, it's just cycling around and around. So, and also there's like there's not somebody that discovers something, because it's all manifesting from Vishnu, who's the knower of things. Then individuals discover things on their own, but it's not like Vishnu didn't know it. So Vishnu also gave a bunch of information to Brahma in the beginning to help him get started. So I'm sure he told him how to eat. That's probably Brahma. Let me see what else we got. We got a question here. What is the relation between the network of water on Earth and the communication it carries? I don't know. Communication or memory, I'm not sure, but water is the mental symbol. It's a symbolism for emotion. And your mental your memory is imprinted on your chitta, which is like an inner mental substance. So water does have to do with memory. And I don't know what it has to do with the ocean. Literally, I'm not so good with that kind of stuff. Rob Van Daren wants to know if the deer is collecting soma through its travels. People say that the deer is looking for something with Mrigashirsha, because basically the word mriga means literally speaking, the word mriga and Mrigashirsha, the basis for the word Mrigashirsha is mriga. Shirsha is in the second part of the compound, means head or face. So mriga is from two words. Itself is a combo of two words, gamana and mrig. So mrig. So it's a word for animals, because animals have legs and walk around. Just like planets are different from stars because they move. They're called graha. Animals are different from plants because they move. So they're called gao. Gao is a basic word for animals. But that one is usually refers to cows, especially. Mrig means dirt. So it's the animals that go with their nose in the dirt are called the mrigas. So the animals that move around with their nose down are mrigas. Animals that are looking up are not mrigas. So basically this divides herbivores from carnivores. Because herbivores look down, they go with their nose down because they're looking for herbs and plants to eat. And carnivores go with their nose up because they're looking for prey. So mriga but everybody is searching. I think it's been overemphasized that mriga is a searching nakshatra. Remember, my basic theory about the history of nakshatra knowledge is that there wasn't a whole lot of it in recent years. Okay? There wasn't a whole lot of nakshatra knowledge in recent years, and people were just trying to understand nakshatras with the scant amount of information that they had, which was like the name of the nakshatra, maybe the god of the nakshatra. But I think that now that the Taittiriya Brahmana and the Nakshatra Sutra has finally been reliably, clearly explained and translated, it's a lot easier to say this is what this nakshatra is and isn't. In light of that, Mrigashirsha is a little bit overdone as a searching nakshatra. A little bit overdone, not entirely overdone. This is interesting. So let's get on. So somebody wants to know what plant I think Soma was pressed from, but we haven't even gotten to that. Actually, right? So I'm still just describing to you that Soma is water. The basic definition of Soma, when you break it down to what it really is, right here, right now, in our lives, not in a mysterious tale, Soma is water. And when you break down what amrit is, in real life, water, amrita is broccoli, amrita is lettuce, amrita is rice. Amrita is the stuff that grows from water. Hey, Valerie. So, amrita is the stuff that keeps you alive. Amrita, no death. It prevents death. Amrita keeps you alive, and it's the stuff that's produced from water. Now, what I started to say was, not every creature has the same food. Every creature has food produced from water. But not every creature has the same thing that gets produced from water. There's something very, very, very special that they have in paradise. That's a superfood and also a miracle drug. Like here on Earth, if you take LSD or smoke pot or drink alcohol, you'll feel cool It'll feel interesting. But it's not really so great for your health, is it? Like LSD will just melt your brain. And pot's not so bad for your health, but it'll kind of make you fat. Alcohol is pretty bad for your health. It'll ruin your whole body's going to waste its time trying to clean it out. So you're going to age fast, and it's going to eventually you'll not be able to clean it out, and so you're going to start getting filthy in there. So in human society, we have some forms of soma, people sometimes call it, which is like our drugs. We have alcohol, and we have, cocaine and things like that. But the interesting thing is that it's not particularly nutritious. But what they have in paradise, and then you have this nutritious food that's not particularly thrilling. You have nutritious food, it's not particularly thrilling, and then you got this thrilling stuff that's not particularly nutritious. But that problem and dichotomy is not there. Chocolate. It's not actually chocolate. I don't know. I refuse to believe that chocolate is not nutritious. When I eat chocolate, I feel good and nutrient. I think chocolate is the real soma amongst humans. So, but in paradise, they have this thing. It's a drink that they drink that it's like a super wheatgrass thing in terms of its nutrition, but it's like wine, or more than wine. It's like marijuana or opiate also, you see. So that's what amrita is in paradise. It doesn't mean that's what amrita is on your dinner table. So don't get stuck on this idea that amrita is some fantasy like fountain of youth thing. Amrita is your rice, your wheat, everything that you're eating. Yeah. People that love drugs, they want to claim that soma was pot or something, or was magic mushrooms. Soma is water. Soma produces amrita, which is nourishment. You have to be nourished, not just in your body, but in your mind. So nourishment has two forks to it. One is the way that it builds your body, and one is the way that it builds your mind. The happiness that you get from food is important. That's why chocolate is freaking good for you. Because when you eat chocolate, you feel cool, you feel relieved, you feel happy. So that's building the nutrition of your mind. Right? It's building the emotional nutrition, chocolate, something like chocolate. Now, like dark chocolates and things that don't have a whole bunch of crap in it, they might also build your body. That's ideal. The food that's or if you go to a great restaurant that's a healthy restaurant and you get or if you're lucky enough to have a partner or you know how to cook who can make really good food that's nutritious, that's great. Because you'll be getting both the mental nourishment and the physical nourishment at the same time. Now, take that idea, like eating a great meal that's also good for you, and then just mythologicalize it a little bit, or make it a little bit more legendary, and you've got Indra's Soma. That's what it is. Okay? And sugar is a very interesting thing. Lori mentioned sugar. Sugar is actually, in the Ayurvedic and Vedic way of thinking, sugar is super nutritious. And sugar is connected with Jupiter. So sugar is also a very highly reformed form of soma. So you refine the soma and it makes amrita. So if you refine water through some seeds and through the earth and you give it some fire, it becomes plants and you can eat them. So you get, so sugar is a very highly reformed amrit. It's very, very nourishing, and nourishing in both ways, nourishing emotionally and physically. But the thing is, you really want to eat real sugar. You actually want to eat sugar cane. Right. Drink sugarcane juice. Honey is a different thing. It's also sweet. And it's also super great. Sugar is a drug, but all of your food is a drug. This is the thing. Food is a drug. A drug is a substance that you put in your body which changes your body. changes how you feel and changes your stuff, right? Well, so that's rice. Food is a drug. Everything is a drug. There's harmful drugs and there's good drugs. Let's make that distinction. People are addicted to food. People are addicted to drugs. Food is basically a drug. So see, it's not so hard now to understand why Soma really is water and Amrita really is food, like rice. And that's not so hard to see why some people think Soma is magic mushrooms, or some people think Soma is some kind of drug, because food is a drug, basically. Now superpower this. Superpower your food and you'll see how it's going to have the qualities. It's going to be a miracle drug, superfood. Now, if you're the God of heaven, you're not going to be eating yesterday's leftovers, right? If you're the God of heaven, you're going to be eating some really good stuff. So Indra gets the most powerful food. And that gets the name specifically Amrita. This is the Amrita. Like in English, we have a definition, but difference between using the preposition a or the. Rice is a Amrita. Broccoli is a Amrita. But what Indra drinks is the Amrita. Okay? Now Heidi's got an interesting question. Levy, you got an interesting question too. You're saying Soma has no literal physical counterpart. Not at all. I'm totally saying Soma is literally water. Here it is. This is Soma from Italy. This is Soma. That's what I'm saying. And Amrita, you want to know what Amrita is? Just go to a farm and you'll see what grows from it. And then what I'm saying is different creatures have access to Soma in different forms. And that Soma gives them different kinds of powers. So if you're in heaven, you have, with Indra, then you have access to this superfood. That's what I'm saying, Levi. It's water for us. The basic form of Soma is water. The superpower form of Soma is stuff that Indra drinks. And it's not just Soma. Remember, he's drinking amrit. So amrit is the transformation of water. Like rice. Rice is really good for understanding this, and rice is associated to the moon. So just go on, and if you live in Japan, it's very easy. Like, maybe I'll post a picture someday. The fields are full of water, and the rice grows out of it. That rice growing out of the water is a very good illustration of what Amrita really is. It's how Soma, or the water, is producing something that keeps us alive and gives us strength and makes us happy. Lori, what's the Bengali name for rice pudding? Heidi says, does this relate to the elements at all? Mrigashirsha is in an air sign, and I thought water and air do not go well together. So that's correct. But the part that's not correct is that Mrigashirsha is in an air sign. So this is the introduction to Victicara 101, is that Victicara doesn't believe that the nakshatras are welded to the rashis, to the signs. And that's what makes Victicara weird and different from all the rest of the Vedic astrologers. But this is why we'll answer your question about why is Mrigashirsha, a very water-related nakshatra, sitting there in Gemini, the root of all the air. Sometimes it's in Gemini. It depends on different parts of history, different times in history. Sometimes it goes someplace else. But if you want to know more about that, just look me up on internet, find my website or something. I have tons of stuff. I'm talking about that. What does Indra do with the Soma? That's right, he drinks it. And he needs to drink it because he needs to get more powerful. Because he's not as powerful as Varuna. So the Soma helps him compensate. I wish I could remember what you're talking about, Lori, because I love Bengali. Anybody know Bengali name for kheer? Isn't it kheer or? Yeah, what's the Bengali name for kheer? Yeah, so it's a source for vitality and everything, for Indra. So what does it tell you about Mrigashirsha? This is also an interesting question, right? Mrigashirsha is a very, 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 very feminine nakshatra. Like it's very archetypically feminine nakshatra. So what Mrigashirsha does is give vitality. Kira. Yeah, I don't know how that means. Super nourishment, extreme nourishment. What Mrigashirsha does is it gives nourishment to others. It provides happiness and strength and joy for others. So it tries to diffuse or vitatani itself. It doesn't put itself in the middle. Mrigashirsha doesn't like spotlights, doesn't like to be a focal point, doesn't like to be even very solid and clear and well-defined. Mrigashirsha likes to be ambiguous, spread out, behind the scenes, and works to bring people together, bring things together to make them stronger. There's a lot like food. Payasana, rice that you can drink. Yeah, it's a supportive nakshatra. All right, so let's get a little bit more in here on our reading. By the way, just so you know, the Indian rice pudding is got from my history. I haven't had any in a long time, but man, that used to be my favorite thing in the world to eat. Nowadays, my favorite thing is samosa. Actually, I talk a lot about this kheer because it's very important. It's actually a great form of Soma, actually, is kheer. But a really important thing that popped into my head to share with you first. Kheer makes a very important analogy about life is that the recipe for kheer, which is this Indian drinkable rice pudding, is milk, rice, sugar. What's the fourth ingredient? Heat. Fire, you have to cook it. So there's 5 ingredients. There's fire, milk, rice, sugar, and pepper, or camphor. And so this little bit of camphor is so important. And this is a very good analogy to explain a lot of things about aesthetics and about life and how you need to have a little bit of pinch, a little bit of something hot or unsettling, even in a cool, sweet dish. All right, let's get back to this. Yeah, you can use pepper or cardamom or camphor, maybe cinnamon, but it's always going to be, you have to have a hot spice in there. Does milk have anything to do with pusha? Tons of everything to do with pusha. How about the searching thing? You see, Mrigashirsha, I think it's just been wrongly portrayed as a searching nakshatra. The deer symbolism of nakshatra, it's much better if you focus on how beautiful the deer is, rather than the fact that it looks for food. Mrigashirsha means the deer's face. So the deer is so beautiful, especially the eyes. And it's a very feminine animal. Beautiful, kind, gentle, timid animal. So Mrigashirsha is a beautiful, timid nakshatra. Searching, not too much. It's not intense enough to really search. Mrigashirsha is non-intense. It's diffused, vitatani. Let's see. Let's see what else I got. So I say, now let's get this topic of rasa. Rasa refers to the deliciousness in food. So these three concepts are very related. Soma, amrita, and rasa. Soma is water. It produces nourishment. Food grows from water. It produces amrita. And the feeling that we get by tasting the amrita is rasa. Rasa is the deliciousness in food and the delight it produces. Now, this could be where you could get some searchiness out of Mrigashirsha from rasa, because rasa is the thing that everybody wants. Everybody wants all varieties of things, but at the base of it all of us wants rasa, which is experience of something delicious. So rasa is associated with Mrigashirsha. Mrigashirsha has a lot of rasa, that's why it's beautiful. Rasa refers to the deliciousness in food and the delight it produces. All food contains soma rasa. All food does. Every food has got some deliciousness to it, but not to the same extent or in the same variety. And that's why there's so many varieties of tastes and various intensities of flavor. So rasa is the flavor in the food, and amrita is the nutritional content. So it's rasa amrita. Now, if any of you are into bhakti yoga, you know Chaitanya Bhakti Yoga, you know super, super, super important book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sindhu is Soma, the ocean, and this ocean produces the rasa and the amrita, the pleasure and nourishment of bhakti, love. That's the title of the book. So the same analogy is there always. The rasa, the soma, the water, it produces stuff that has amrita and rasa, nourishment and joy. Amrita refers to the nourishment in food which vitalizes us and keeps us alive. This word literally indicates negation of death, amrita. Again, all food contains soma amrita, but not to the same extent or in the same variety. This is why there are various nutrients in food and various degrees of healthful properties in food. All forms of life constantly search for the rasa and amrita of soma. So that's why a deer is walking around looking for food. But it's not just deer. The lion is walking around looking for food. It's just looking with its head up for stuff that's moving around. That's why we go around looking for food or money to get food. Or even if you're going around looking for sex, you're still looking for rasa. Right? Rasa is the experience of pleasure. It's the experience of joy. So actually what we want more than amrita is rasa. That's why people commit suicide. Amrita means deathlessness. So food has two properties. One is deathlessness and one is joy, rasa. But the rasa is more important than the deathlessness. To have joy is more important than to have life. Because if you don't have joy, you'll give up life. Kaylee, we were just talking, you just missed the reference to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. If you could believe that, we got a Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu reference in an astrology discussion. Okay, so everybody is searching for rasa and amrita, pleasure and health. The reason why you want them both is because the pleasure is short-lived if you don't have amrita. So you want long-lasting pleasure, then you need health and an enjoyable thing. And the soma provides it both. Basically, food should provide us both. Right? Good food. If you're a cook or whatever, if you do a lot of cooking, think about this. Because this is the ideal To be a spiritual person doesn't mean to stop doing whatever you're doing and do something else. To be a spiritual person means to do what you're doing with a lot of comprehension of the spiritual nature of it. So if you're doing a lot of cooking, think about this and what you're providing for people. Or if you're growing food or something, you're providing them rasa amrita. So this is simply symbolized by a deer sniffing out herbs and roots in the forest, the search that everybody has for rasa and amrita. So all food contains rasa and amrita, but no food contains it in as pure and a concentrated form as the nectar produced by Soma and given in copious supply to Indra. Drinking it incessantly, Indra magnifies his strength. Indra is described as drinking this stuff incessantly and becomes undefeatable, also increasing his appetite and capacity to enjoy thrills and pleasures. So if you have health, then you can enjoy life much better than if you don't. So if you have amrita, you can enjoy rasa. If you don't have amrita, it's hard to enjoy rasa. If you don't have health, it's hard to enjoy pleasure. Okay, so the next section in the book is then I'm going to talk about Ashvini. Because after Indra gets his hands on this amrita, and now you might be thinking, I don't know if any of you, nobody's mentioned it yet. I got to check my YouTube thing. Nobody asked a question about the Kir Sagar Leela, where they churn the ocean of Kir. They churn the ocean of milk. Oh, Catherine, that's so interesting. She works in greenhouses, and when watering, the smell of herbs is released and it almost becomes taste. It's very wonderful, kind of Mrigashirsha vibe. And that's her ascendant. So let me see. What was I on? Yeah, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is Ashvini, because after Indra gets this stuff from the milk ocean, but it's an ocean, it's a Soma, right? So a very amazing form of Soma is milk, a great nutritive liquid. So the gods and anti-gods, asuras and asuras, they churned this ocean of milk. And that was what allowed the Soma of the milk to produce the amrita initially. Okay? So just so you know, it's not a separate story. It's the same story, same idea. Soma's producing the amrita for Indra. The Soma is this liquid ocean. But once he got it, once Indra got this, he became quite possessive of it. As you would, well, as Indra does. I mean, Indra's he wants his power, but he knows that he's not really the best qualified for this position, so he's going to be anxious all the time about how he can keep himself in that position. Right? So the next thing that he's going to do is he's going to put an embargo on the rasa. So that's what that's why I want to talk about Ashvini next, because the gods of Ashvini, the two Ashvins, they're like one of the primary targets of the embargo. Of course, the Nagas, Asuras, definitely cut off. He's not going to share any amrita with those. All right. Let's see. So we got a couple more minutes. I'll just look for questions. Levi wants to know if Soma relates to reproductive liquids. Of course, definitely. Any fluid is Soma. Water is the basic Soma. So anything that's liquid is Soma, is a form of Soma. Reproductive fluids are amrit. They're definitely going to bring forth life, right? So that's why you get people thinking that Soma relates to reproduction or amrita relates to reproduction. Anything else? That's a good question. Why does the Devas renege on the deal? Do you want to know this? This is a very interesting story. This is an interesting story because the Vedas are not written by Walt Disney. So you don't get actual cut and dried good guys and bad guys. And that's one of the really interesting, fascinating things. What happened was, as you know, Indra kicks out the Asuras from paradise. The Asuras want to get it back. So they're always fighting. And then the Devas want to get this special power so that they can just defeat the Asuras without fear. So they hear that there's this food. There could, food makes you powerful. So there could be this, if they could get this really powerful food, that would make them super powerful. And I think it's Vishnu that says you can get it, but it has to come from this ocean. It'll come from this ocean. But you can't, you guys alone are not capable of turning a mountain to churn this ocean. So you're going to have to cooperate with your enemy to get this amrita. So Vishnu tries to get them to cooperate. So they make a truce and they say, let's cooperate and churn this mountain, churn this ocean together, and then we'll share the nectar. And then they got the nectar. Eventually the nectar was produced. Both of the sides said to hell with our agreement on sharing this stuff. So that's an important point. Everybody is a liar. This is one thing that the Vedas are not fluffy about. They are very clear about showing that everybody is messed up. So both the Asuras tried to just grab this nectar and run. The Devas tried to grab the nectar and run, so they started fighting again. And then Vishnu had to come again. Vishnu had to come numerous times to get this thing to work right. This time Vishnu came as Mohini. He took a female form and came as Mohini to get all these people to pay attention to him, to her, and trust her. So they all felt that they could trust her. And she said, you guys all sit down and I'll give you all cups and I'll pour out the nectar. Nobody drink it until everybody has it. And then you guys can all drink it at the same time. They all agreed. And it's still not fair to say that Vishnu and the gods lied at this point. They didn't lie. Actually, it was Rahu, the planet Rahu, who at that time was not a planet yet, who was a regular Naga named Swarbhanu. And Swarbhanu didn't trust this woman. He was the only one that didn't trust the woman. So Rahu and Ketu have a distrustful nature. He was the only one who didn't trust Vishnu as Mohini. So he was suspicious, and then the Nagas have the power of shape-shifting, so he made himself look like a god. And he went and he sat down quite close to the sun and the moon. And Mohini poured the nectar for them. And then when he got it in his cup, he thought, I know these guys are going to cheat us. This is my chance. It's right here, right in front of me. All I have to do is be quick. I just drink this nectar before anybody else. And so he just went for it. He didn't want to cooperate. So that's another nature of Rahu and Ketu, is they're not cooperative with rules and leaders. So Swarbhanu just grabbed the cup, but he was sitting right next to the sun and the moon. And the sun and the moon were a little bit suspicious. Who is this guy? What's this guy's name? So they had their eye on him. And so as soon as his hand went down to grab the cup, they had already had their eye on him. So they made some kind of a sound or something, got Mohini's attention. Mohini turned around in a blink of an eye, like ninja, and called up the Sudarshan Chakra, which is like her shuriken, and went phew. And the shuriken that she has flies by her mind. Vishnu's shuriken flies by the mind. She doesn't have to move her hand. So the shuriken just goes. So it's caught Sorbanu's neck, right, as he was putting right as he had the cup to his lips. So he actually had gotten the amrit in his body. So he became immortal. And Mohini then just said, well, we're not going to let you I'm not going to put your head back on your body. So she threw the head into the north and threw into the sky in the north, and she threw the body into the sky in the south. And they got lodged at these at the nodes where the sun and the moon path cross. And so they then became eclipse generators. So yeah, why did I wind up telling that story? Because John asked, why did the Deva renege on the deal? The Devas actually didn't renege on the deal. Everybody was trying to cheat and steal this Amrita, and actually it was Sorbanu who blew it. Sorbanu blew it by not going along with Mohini, who was serving everybody. So that's the deal there. All right, guys. That's all for today. So see you next week for some talk about the Ashwinis. There's just not much is often spoken about the Ashwinis. Okay, guys. Have a great week. Now, which ones do I shut off first? I'll shut off this one.